And welcome back to another episode of Born to Talk About Sports. I am your host, Steve Bourne, and as you can tell today, I am on location. I am at my brother-in-law's house here in Cambridge. As Justin, say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody.
So I figured today, as you know from my previous episodes, I've been doing Steve's Peeves, my gripes on the sports world, and now I figured to talk to the people. And so today I'm going to ask Justin, of all the things in sports that bug you, what's the one thing that bugs you the most?
Inconsistency
In what?
in hockey, because it's the only sport I really watch. And we are at a crossroads with how things are done in the regular season to how things are done in the playoffs.
Sorry, go on.
And I say that not wanting to complain about it, but I used to think it just happened to my team, but it's happening across the board. And it's happening across the board in a year where they're trying to bring in gambling. And they're trying to bring in people's money where you're betting on something that you want to be able to project, but you have no idea what's going on a night-to-night basis.
So you're more talking about inconsistencies in officiating and how it can drastically impact the game, as opposed to, say, just the style of play or broadcasting or something like that.
Well, I think it all goes hand in hand, right? So obviously, as a Leaf fan, I've seen the Leafs do some stuff in this second round that they never did previously, and part of that credit goes to the Florida Panthers. But you've got stuff like Marner, who's doing a drop pass at his own blue line. You've got to Matthews, who's really in no man's land. Things like that, right? Where there are inconsistencies there, and you got to give Florida Panthers credit for all of the forward checking that they're doing. But at the same time, on the first goal, the Leafs got tripped 3 times leading up, on the second goal, the Leafs got tripped 3 times leading up to the goal, and the reason nothing was called was because, well, they'd already gotten 2 power plays in the first, got to even it up.
Yeah, no, that again, that's the one thing that I think that was one of my first videos that I did on the Steve's Peeves is inconsistency of officiating. If anyone knows me, all I've ever wanted is call the obvious stuff, and especially if it takes away a scoring chance or if someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
Those are the two I think should be called. Now, I've thought of something. I'm going to run it by you to see if you would think about it. Because you know how right now goals can be called back on challenges for, high sticking, offside, hand pass, goalie interference, or kicked in. What if you could call a challenge for a penalty that wasn't called to delay, that it directly caused the goal? Do you think that would fly?
What kind of example would you have on that?
Well, let's say that led up to the second Panthers goal on Thursday night, where a couple of Leaf players who were chasing the play were obviously tripped, and then it led to an odd man rush that led to a goal.
Yeah, so this is where, this is where I might contradict myself a bit, but I think that part of the appeal of, all of this is the human element and the human error. But is it human error or is it willful blindness? Right? So, and what I mean by that is, we've seen things that are petty calls that get called because maybe the other team has gotten 3 power plays already and they're trying to catch it up, or the team that has 3 power plays, blatant trips. The thing that happened to Matthew Nyes behind the net, that's at least a 2-minute call. I don't want to hear about it. Sam Bennett knew exactly what he was doing. He's been in the NHL for 10 years. He is a grinder. The Leafs traded 2 firsts and a fourth for Foligno the same year that Sam Bennett went to Florida for a second. So kudos to Florida, kudos to Sam Bennett.
But also bad to Dubas for way overpaying for a guy who did squat.
I absolutely hated the trade, not because Foligno is a bad player, but because he had a lot of miles on him, and there was other stuff out there, and a first and 2 fourths is way too much to pay.
But that shows you where the market was.
But getting back to it, Sam Bennett is, he knows exactly how to play playoff hockey, and I think the Leafs are built more for like the regular season style. Now, having said that, this year Kyle Dubas did go out, and the Leafs have like 3 of the top 5 hitters in the team, but the hits are very clean. There's a lot of good hits, a lot of open ice hits, but
especially McCabe,
some of those greasy plays that you need in the postseason is kind of what we're missing and what Florida has gotten and why we've lost Matthew Nyes.
The little dirty stuff behind it, especially the stuff that
It's-
goes behind
well,
the refs.
When Sam Bennett cross-checked, who was the guy in front?
Bunting.
Bunting in the neck. He cross-checks him,
Yeah.
standing over him. He looks over
And
at
then-
the ref,
and
sees
then-
that the ref has already made the call, and he just cross-checks him in the back of the
And
spine.
I think it was the second cross check that probably got him the fine.
Maybe, but he's looking at the ref, and he knows from experience.
He's not gonna call a
getting that second call, so he's making it
It,
worth it.
it's a free shot, sort of like what Stamkos did with Matthews.
Oh yeah,
Where
and
he-
again,
where the Lightning had a feeling that
yeah.
they're not going to get a
But
power.
this is the issue. The ref was holding Stamkos back. Matthews was cleaning up the sticks.
Yeah.
But this is what I
'Cause-
mean. Like,
yeah.
maybe you do need somebody who's
Well, I
who's
mean-
not cleaning up the sticks and can say, you know,
Well,
we
that's
need a
what,
little bit more of a grit grinder here.
I mean, that's also what kind of Wayne Simmons is for. And the problem is Wayne Simmons is guaranteed to take at least 1 or 2 stupid penalties a game.
Okay, but
unfortunately.
you need someone who can play.
Yeah. And
You
then I
know
think that's why Zach Aston Reese got the call back into the
Yeah.
Leafs lineup for Game 3. But I agree with you that it's the inconsistency in officiating. You don't want, because you're never going to get perfect consistency. I
No,
mean,
and you don't
it's
want
impossible.
that. Like, you don't want the ticky tacky calls ever, right?
No,
Not in
no.
the playoffs. The way I see it is, if it's a hockey play that's gone bad, you know, like, you know, you go into the corner and somebody falls and whatever. If it's away from the plane, you're doing something stupid, that should be called every time because you're doing something stupid. And if it's a hockey play where, you know, and I think they do call this a lot, where it's a hockey play and it leads to a scoring chance, you have to call it. I do wonder though, like, you know, they say it's tough on the players to go from the regular season to the playoffs because of, you know, and there's no, you know, there's no where about it. It does change. The reffing changes, and I think we all want that at the end of the day. You know, we all want, you know, a little bit more competitiveness and this and that.
Let the players decide.
But do you know who also has to adapt and who also has trouble adapting is the refs.
Yeah.
They're told to call a completely different game, and I think that in the course of a game, no matter how much you want to do the right thing, you're trying to make the right calls, you're also trying to do a lot more of managing the situation and the
Exactly.
scoreboard.
It's more of that game management stuff that Tim Peel talked about before he got fired.
This is it.
It is a fine balance. You know, the officials, especially in the faster sports like hockey, do have a tougher job flipping the switch. But there has to be some sort of consistency going. At least if you're going to call an obvious trip, call it both ways. Don't call depending on the situation. But again, it's tough because we get as fans, we get the replay. These guys don't get replay. But I've always been saying, call.
Hey, buddy.
We
Hey,
got
buddy.
a run in here,
Hey,
Oakley.
how's it going? Anyways, sorry.
You get again, the officials get the tough. They don't get the replays,
No.
and so they. I've been told on Twitter by other former officials that if it's really egregious, they'll be talked to in the intermission. If they miss something bad or they refuse to call something, because to me, there's not just everything's a missed call. There's intentional
no.
non-calls.
No.
Like
There's situational non-calls all the time.
Like going back to the Game 5 with Toronto and Tampa when was it what's his name, Pat Maroon took out Giordano from behind. The ref was looking at her right then, decided not to call it. The only what Maroon got was 2 minutes for roughing. It's because he punched Matthews, who came in to defend Giordano.
Yeah, the best was, okay, so Maroon in an overtime in the first, he just like rocked, I think, was it
Jake McCabe.
McCabe, he rocked McCabe from behind and didn't get a penalty.
Yeah, because that first overtime...
which again is situational, it's overtime, whatever. Yeah. You know, like he knows he can get away with it, and he did it, and he got away with it. But then he hit someone else from behind, and they called it, and he was all like, what do you mean you're calling this? And I get why he's confused. Well, and I think, like, he got away with it the last time.
And I think this is what it eventually should come to, is one set of officials for each series. The players will know what to get called by the second or third game.
Okay.
You're probably the players will probably know what'll get called and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's probably the best way is because then also players will develop a rapport. They'll know what they can get away with. They know what they can't get away with.
But do you want that? Is the question. Do you want? What if you get stuck with like, a bunch of Wes McCauley's, who just I mean, he was a great ref until everyone found out he was a great ref, and then he just fell off the bar. And I'm not just saying that as a Leaf fan because he was trending the other night for an Oilers game for the exact same crap.
Yeah, I know. With Wes McCauley, he got famous by going fighting or no goal.
Which is, you know what?
It's showmanship. I get it.
It's showmanship.
But he let it go to his head. Well, the thing is, though, I've heard fans all across really complaining about the officials these playoffs. Last year, it's because they called almost everything in the playoffs, especially in the first round.
Oh, the Leafs against Tampa. I think the Leafs were expecting a run in
and anything goes, and they called what 10 penalties in game 1.
Yeah, and the Leafs were the rougher team especially in game 1, and obviously Clifford got suspended.
Yeah,
and somehow Tampa was actually, they were very clean, and the Leafs were the ones that were kind of...
Yeah, the Leafs took... Yeah, and it's funny...
taking liberties.
Yeah, it is, because also... I mean, this also would come down to coaching. Just to... And now the big question is, if the Leafs drop to the Panthers, is Keefe gone?
Okay, I'm a huge Sheldon Keefe fan, so I'll just preface it from that in many ways, and... For a long time, there were reasons the Leafs lost, but I don't think Keefe, he's been outcoached, but he was outcoached by teams that were already better. Last year, Tampa.
John Cooper.
Cooper outcoached him. The Leafs actually, I think, scored more goals than Tampa in the series, but just the way it was allocated, they lost.
Lost by 1 goal in Game 7.
Against Montreal, I thought Keefe
I thought it was on par with what's his name? Didn't make it through the next year.
Ducharme, Dominic Ducharme.
Yeah,
and
Carey Price got him a contract extension.
Carey Price absolutely stole that series.
Once the Leafs made that series 3-1, Carey Price became a brick wall.
Well, and the Leafs, they tightened right up. It was
and Price got into their heads.
There's no team that has been in their own heads for as many years as the Leafs, and you're hoping that once they beat Tampa and they win that series, that they're going to be playing free. And I think they are. Here's the thing: I think they are playing free this series. I think they are actually playing really well. The problem is...
Bobrovsky.
Well, number one, the problem is Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's been unbelievable. But number two, they're losing their attention to detail because they're playing so free. Yeah. And so you've got... the first giveaway was Liljegren, who goes in the back. Now, when you go to the back and you know someone's going to tie you up on the boards, you kind of hold it there and you have someone else come in.
Yeah.
He threw it behind the net, which is... I guess a fine play, but then Tavares loses an edge.
Yeah, blows a tire.
And I think Bennett is the one that throws it back, kind of the other way. It was a nice goal, but it was, again, the Leafs shooting themselves in the foot by making all of these mistakes. And then the second goal, which you can argue about the trips, but it doesn't matter because they didn't call it, and it was probably one Samsonov would like to have back.
I think so. Also, I really thought Samsonov was acting like, Florida's going to get nailed for a penalty. And he lost his concentration for a moment.
Well, I mean...
You still have to play to the whistle. It's no excuse. It's no excuse.
Again, playoff hockey, you're going to get tripped. You're going to think things that should be a penalty are not a penalty.
You play to the whistle.
Also, I think that Barkov had the puck for long enough that, you're still focused. The problem, the thing there, if you look at the one angle, the puck floated.
Yeah.
He still has to save it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a complete whiff.
Yeah.
And then the third goal again...
It was just no attention to detail.
And it was just, and it's your best players. It's the players that have been here the longest. But then they go. It's the most infuriating thing. You got Willie, who looks like complete crap for the first few periods of each game, and then he comes out in game 3, or at least the first period. He comes out in the third period.
Yeah, third period.
And he's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, he was going. Him, JT, Matthews, Marner, they were all going to the net.
And, this is why I'm not too worried about the series. Even though the Leafs might lose, there's still it's not a they're down 2-0, but I don't think it's a true 2-0 in terms of the ability, you know,
control
sometimes when
play.
you're down 2-0, you're like, all right, this series is done.
Yeah, especially if you get dominant, like
Yeah.
what Jersey's doing in Carolina right now, or Carolina's doing in Jersey.
That series is more than done. Now, you would have thought when Boston was up 3-1,
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
was done. So it's funny
Yeah.
how it works.
Well, that's also when Boston decided to bring Bergeron back, who has a herniated disc and should never have played.
Shouldn't have played game 82. He did it for his dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
get
Now
it,
that's
but-
probably going to cost him his career because he's probably done.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we're going to see. I mean,
Boston.
we're recording this. Sorry, I'm just going to say we're recording this on the Sunday before Game 3 of the Leafs Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
So anyone who watches this after, guess what's today's what, the 7th?
It's Sunday.
It's Sunday. And so we'll find out what happens tonight, and then Game 4 later on in the week, and hopefully 5, 6, and maybe 7. But I'm just going to say, because we're going to wrap this up, that the one thing they say, I guess your biggest beef right now with hockey is, to go full circle, is inconsistency. But unfortunately, it's not one of those things that can easily be fixed like that. It's a human inconsistency, especially with when you're dealing with humans and how fast the NHL is. I mean, this game is going faster than ever now.
Yeah. And I never want it to get to like just robotic. Like I think the human element is what makes sports fun at the end of the day. And it's the human element from the players, it's the human element from the refs, it's the human element from the fans. But this, like a lot of these things are not human element, you know, they're not missed calls, they're management calls. And that is where you can make some changes. I don't want to see a robot like calling. I don't want them to call every single like call up every. Was that actually a penalty? Was that
Sort of
there's
like
gotta
when,
be, there's got to be anger, frustration, all this stuff. But there's a difference between a missed call and a management call.
Yep.
And
it's the management calls that need to.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe we'll save this for another time because I would like to do this again. But the NHL is so lucky that they are the best hockey league in the world because they run the hockey league terribly.
Yeah.
Terribly.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video here, my first interview. So I think it went pretty well. And until next time, use the hashtag #BoringSports. Please like, subscribe, comment. And until next time, stay safe out there.
Woohoo!